to have a conversation with than yourself, because of the intentionality that you preach with parenting, and the heart that is also there, and just the work that you do with children as well. And so yeah, by profession, I'm a senior policy analyst. So yeah, we make policies and we advise the government. They can take it or leave it, but we advise them. And I work with teenagers at my church. I live in Regina, Saskatchewan, Canada. And I also talk about mental health and sexual abuse. I run a blog where I talk about these things, loudsilences.org, and just really to educate people, create awareness. I've been doing that even before I wrote the book, and I also have some videos on YouTube that speaks to that. And I'll get to back on YouTube for that one. So yeah, in a nutshell, I'm also a career coach. I also love to talk about career and personal development, professional development, especially for, people that look like me. I hate the fact that we struggle. Some people, some of us struggle through these things, struggle to rise, struggle to get promoted, struggle to land a good job. And so that's an additional passion area for me that I deal with. But today, I think the focus really is on the piece of me that is a sexual abuse survivor. And I love to talk about that as well. Not because it's easy to talk about, but because every time I hear someone say, thank you so much, I have the courage to face my own fears, to face my own experiences. That just brings me joy, because for every opportunity that I have to pluck someone out of that state of depression, of suicide, of, whatever mental health issues that have arisen because of their experience with sexual abuse, or even just the fear to face life, whatever opportunity I have to pluck someone out, I want to take that opportunity. And I know that parenting is a very big key, in all that role. So thank you for having me, ma'am. It's truly an honor.
Thank you for being here. Thank you for everyone that's joined. I've seen quite a lot of names that I know and some that I do not know, but thank you so much everyone for joining. And it's funny because someone's texting me that their child is trying to show me, I'm guessing he's watching with you, right? So he's trying to show me his animals. so tell him that I'll see his animals after the show. See, I love children, so I can't even ignore that she said that to me by text. So thank you for introducing yourself. And my first question would be, what is CSA, child sexual abuse? What does that really mean? Because sometimes we throw big names out there and we really don't understand what it means. For me, I'm very intentional about things, and I've heard the word intentional all the time. And sometimes like, what does it really mean? It's a lot deeper than the word sounds. It means you're doing something consistently. It's like the oxygen that you breathe. You just must do it. Like, for example, this morning now, the weekend has been crazy, sincerely crazy. Like, I didn't even roll out of bed until like almost 10 a.m. And I'm like, okay, I've got 1 hour to be ready for this. It's booked, we're going to do it. Because I know that people are going to come away with tools from this experience today. People are going to come away with knowledge. Our eyes are going to open to certain things that we never saw that way. And that's how we learn, and that's how we grow. So please tell us, what does child sexual abuse mean?
Well, thank you, Ma. So I know, like you said, people throw out the word. It looks like a big thing, CSA, but really child sexual abuse is any form of abuse towards a child that has a sexual form. And I'm just going to break that down further. So what that really means is that whether you're, and I'm sorry, I apologize ahead of time. If we're going to really understand this, there might be some graphical explanation. But so just to warn someone, and if you have any triggers, please.
So if you have your children, sitting with you, you might want to tell them to excuse you, please.
Yes. Okay. And if there are any triggers, please feel free to talk to someone, or if it's severe, please call 811 if you're in Saskatchewan. I think actually across Canada, call 811. If you're outside of Canada, I honestly strongly recommend that you find out what the sexual health line might be for whatever country you're in. Yeah, so what it really means is that any form of sexual exposure, whether it's in revealing your private parts to a child or looking at theirs, not like trying to look at it, maybe something is wrong with my child's penis and I'm trying to check to see, well, not that kind of look, but looking with the intent of, sexual arousal or sexual feelings. So exposure, touching a child in a sexual manner, exposing that child to pornography, or even exposing the child to sexualized behavior, whether it's movies. So those of you that sometimes you're watching certain movies, they are doing certain things, and you're allowing your children sit down there. I know it sounds harsh, but trust me, you're starting to cross the border into sexual abuse, quite frankly. So exposing the child, touching the child, penetrating the child, whether with, in the case of maybe if it's a man, whether it's with his penis, his finger, or any other kind of material, whatever it is. And so even just exposing the children, and even with the exposure, it can be content. I remember as teenagers, they used to allow us read things like Mills and Boom, Thrills
Tell me
and
about
Boom.
it. Yeah.
Yes, they didn't know, but quite frankly, that can be sexual abuse, because you're abusing the mind of that child. You're abusing the psychology of that child. You're exposing them to something that they're not biologically, mentally, emotionally ready for. Their body clock might be evolving, but it is not supposed to. And I'm sorry to those who might be joining that are not Christians. I'm Christian, and to me, as Christian, is a pastor's wife. So I'm sorry, I'll put some scriptures there, because that's the core of who I am. The Bible talks about the fact that do not awaken my love before it's time. Do not awaken. And that version says, do not awaken the passion before it's time. So when I really think about it, even from that biblical perspective, it is doing anything that awakens sexuality in a child before their time. So I really hope that helps someone to just really understand what child sexual abuse is.
Thank you so much for that. So I highlighted some things in your book, and I believe you guys should go get the book. It's on Amazon, okay? But I'm going to read this from page 58. So there's something you said there, that as a teenager, your brain is not fully developed and your feelings unclear and conflicted, making you even more susceptible to doing the dumbest things. And, we had this conversation with the teenagers class at church the other day. And the question was, at what age can a child date? And I hadn't even read up to this page when I told them, you know what? You guys are still growing. Your brain is still young. And, the Bible, like you just said, we're both Christians. So the Bible always comes into what we do, right? It says, train up a child in the way they should go. So are they going to get married at 15? Are they going to start having sex at 13? No, you don't want that. So why do we expose them to content materials that triggers their brain to start thinking about things like that? Reading books that exposes them to stuff like that. I've taken books, this is the funny thing about me. They invited me somewhere, and there was a little child beside me, and she was reading a book that I thought was not appropriate. I was a guest minister, okay? And I didn't care if they were going to invite me back to that place. So I looked at the girl and I'm like, give me that book. I just took it from the child and I said, after service, tell your parents to come take it from me. I don't know them. But that's me, because growing up, I've seen, in my community, and as I've read through your book and heard a few other things about CSA, I've seen that sometimes as parents, we're not really set out to abuse our children sexually. But sometimes we do it unknowingly by the content we expose them to. Like you talked about Mills and Boons. I think I read all of them.
I did too.
Yeah. And when you're reading it, your brain is telling you something. Your mind is thinking something. The next time a boy talks to you, you're thinking about what you saw in that book.
Absolutely.
And what the young brain does not know is that this is fiction. This is not real life. But to them at that stage, they're thinking it's real life. For example, it's like when kids watch martial shows, karate shows and stuff like that. Oh, they come to daycare and they practice it.
Yes. And they warn them.
Yeah.
And they warn them, do not try this at home.
And you're like... But
it doesn't change it, because research shows that the brain of a young person actually in those instances cannot tell between the difference between real and unreal.
Exactly. So parenting is very intentional in the fact that we have to be very, very diligent. What is my goal for this child? If you want your child to go register in wrestling because you want them to be able to do self-defense, then as a parent, you have to back it up constantly with, this is only for when someone is attacking you, you are in danger. This is not a
Absolutely.
play thing that you just go fighting your cousins and stuff like that. And the same thing, like you said about, exposing them to shows. And that's why sometimes in, childcare, you might find two kids hiding under the blanket somewhere trying to do something because they've seen something somewhere.
Yes.
So now we reinforce, no, you can't do that. This person is just your friend. This is for, married people to do. That is what we believe as Christians. I can go on and on. So I'm going to just jump to the next question so that so what are the telltale signs of a child going through sexual abuse? So there might be someone watching today that's wondering, oh, what is my child dealing with? What are the telltale signs? What are the things we should watch out for as parents, as uncles, auntie, child caregiver, even within the church, religious organizations? You have children in your classroom. What are the telltale signs that might, trigger your mind to think, or the suspicion will be there that, I hope this child is not going through sexual abuse?
Yeah, so thank you. That's a very great question. Unfortunately, that question, these are the 5 signs for it, because it differs from child to child. Their environmental exposure, their experiences, even their personality plays a role in whether or not you can pick out those signs. However, there are some things that you can, at the end of the day, each person knows their child better. And for God's sake, I hope you know your child to be able to observe closely that something is off with this child. I was talking to, there's a teenager in my house currently, and I was talking to her, Judith, and I said, we're talking about something, and I said, it's based on relationship. I can tell when you're laughing in a certain way. I know that your laughter means you have something on your mind. And somebody else will see you and be like, see the way she's laughing, no self-control. And they'll castigate you for it. But I know you enough to know. And she started laughing. And I said, see, let's go and talk. Everybody excuse us. And truly there was something. Relationship is what builds that. Relationship is what uncovers that. And so I really hope that every parent knows their child enough that even when they're wearing a mask, you can unmask them and say, nope, this is not you. What's going on? And I say this because, so I'll use some examples of myself from when, the first time I was abused, I was 7 years old by a lesson teacher who was in my home. Now, as you can probably already tell, I talk a lot. I love to talk. It takes a lot to get me to be quiet, and as a child, I was that way as well. Now, there are 2 things. There's the typical Nigerian piece where a child that is talkative like me, we actually often get shut down a lot growing up. And they'll be like, you talk too much. Don't you know, especially when you're a girl, don't you know you're a woman? You shouldn't talk much. No man want to marry you. They make all those statements to try and tone you down. And they did that. And it worked to a certain degree. But there was a point where I became extremely quiet. And when I say extremely quiet, in fact, so quiet that it not even bothered my auntie that I was living with, so much so that she started beating me for being quiet. So we went from one extreme where you talk too much to now I'm extremely quiet, where I even became very timid. Like, have you met me? Timid is not in it's not in my DNA. I became very timid. So much so that even to just answer basic questions, I would want to whisper it because a part of me was just constantly scared. So I like what Ibis Love even said, withdrawal, suddenly getting more conscious about their looks. And that's another thing, it differs from age to age too. Because a 6-year-old or a 7-year-old brain might not care about their looks, but a teenager will.
Exactly.
A teenager who's been sexually abused will suddenly care about their looks. I remember a girl when I was growing up, I lived in the city called Warri in Delta State. And I remember this girl, she went from being very chic girl that, one of those girls that it always just looks so pretty, so on point. And then she went from that to started wearing baggy like the rest of us that were trying to be tomboys. And then she became very withdrawn. By the time some of us started asking, like, what happened with this girl? What happened with this girl? We found out we're all going to the same lesson together. She was raped right at that lesson.
Imagine.
And so she became extremely, she felt like it was because of the way she used to dress, which honestly speaking wasn't even indecent. She was just a girly girl that, liked her heels. And she was very decent, but just very girly. And so she felt, okay, maybe I showed too much of my curves. Maybe if I turned it down. Guess what? Even in that state, she was raped again. twice.
Yeah.
Same lesson. Her parents never really sat down to question, why did my child change her dressing from being a girly girl to now wanting to be a tomboy? They never questioned that. So I don't know if they eventually found out. And so really, it differs from age as well. It differs from when they start keeping secrets, they start getting unnecessarily angry. And when I mean angry, even to the point where especially even teenagers will probably even do this more. Though you're talking, they talk back. And they've not always been like that. So I'm not talking about those that that you've been believing God for that change since they were little. No, I'm saying like that sudden switch or seeming sudden switch, because it never is sudden.
Yes.
They start with behaviors that where they are hoping that my parents will pick that something is off the plate.
Yeah.
And when they feel like you're not getting, they start getting resentful towards you. And then they start talking back. And then, even relationships with people, especially if it's because research shows that over about 79% of perpetrators of child sexual abuse are actually people that are known to the kids. Actually, no, 90 something is people that are known, and 79 out of that is close family members. So if they're even family members, or if they're people that are close to the family, you notice that when that person comes, your child does not want to greet them. Look into it. Yeah. When that person comes, your child seems disrespectful, or they start getting scared. They start hiding. They want to run away. That's when they go into their rooms and they want to have nothing to do with that visitor. Look into it. And so, but one telltale, especially for younger kids, is physical pain. When you see that child constantly complaining about, there's pain in my vagina or there's pain in my anus, because sometimes we forget boys get abused too. Yeah. And unfortunately, for them, it's in their bone, especially if it's from a male abuser. When you see or hear that, oh, mommy, I'm feeling pain in my vagina, or I'm feeling pain in my anus, or even for boys, especially, they start having one weird affinity towards one auntie like that. And every time, the auntie maybe, we have this affect women, unfortunately. The auntie is always behind one closed door, the other with the child. You want to look into that. I know it sounds like it should make us very paranoid. Unfortunately, you can find ways to just observe. A lot of observation has to come in, intentionality, consistently watching the relationship your child is having with the people around you, even at school. And so and then another tell sign is when they become overly sexualized themselves. I weep every time. There were several stories. The most recent one I can remember is the Chrisland one with the girl that was, and I said, everybody is asking all the wrong questions. Who touched this girl to begin with? Let's start from there. Kids don't just fall from heaven knowing all about sexuality like and all of that. They don't. Someone taught her something. Someone exposed her to something. Yeah. In my book, I talked about when I was 17 years old, the uncle that would intentionally watch pornography in front of me. Yeah. Did I ask for that? No. Or let's not even talk about, in instances where maybe you're walking on adults, all those uncles and aunties that will live with you, and then you're walking on them having sex with, someone. Yeah, that just leaves something in the mind. Yeah, and then they want to go.
Stays in your brain, and it
exactly
takes the grace of God to erase it from your mind. Even as adults, I say to people when you're watching, there are certain movies I don't watch because I know how my brain works, but children don't know that yet. So when we expose them, just like you said, they walked in on an auntie and an uncle making out. They're going to remember that scene for life.
Yes. And unfortunately, sometimes they want to act it out.
Yes.
And so we see those sexualized behaviors in them. And instead of trying to figure out where this is coming from, with the intention of helping those children, we beat them. We get upset. What that unfortunately does is it only drives them into doing it more. Because now you even pick their curiosity to say, what is in this thing? They want to see through to find out what exactly is there. If they are if they are, and sometimes that's where you now see them take a younger child and say, come, let's do this. Let me practice on you.
Let's do like mommy and daddy.
Or if it's a boy, then that's when they go and find a smaller girl. And then they force her and say, I want to try it on you. And when the girl resists, before you know it, a 13-year-old is being said to have raped someone. So sometimes those sexualized behavior, sudden withdrawal, They don't talk to you anymore. They become disrespectful. They become very quiet. Or if they're quiet before, they become very outspoken. That's why I said there's no 5-step, because it really depends. If it's a family where the child cannot even talk to anybody on a normal day, chances are that they won't even talk. They will just even become a lot more withdrawn. And then suddenly they want to be very, I know someone said, keep secrets. A child that usually will tell you things before doesn't want to tell you something anymore, because they're either worried about how you're going to react, or they're worried that maybe they've been threatened, And so sometimes some of those behavior, physical pain around the vagina, sometimes the physical pain may not even be around their privates. It might just be they're constantly complaining about being sick. Look into it, because the body sometimes reacts in a physical sense. Crazy as it sounds, when your child actually even suddenly starts to gain weight or lose weight, it could also be a sign, because sometimes those are some of the physical, reactions that our body has as a way of even protecting the child or protecting the person from dealing with, whatever is going on internally. So there's no 5-step. Which is why knowing your child is the first thing.
Is the first step.
Understand your child. When you know your child and things start changing in them,
you will know.
You can tell.
Yes.
And then as you see those extreme differences, or as they're playing out gradually, you can call your child to order and say, "Come, what's going on?
What's going on?
Talk to me."
Yeah. Thank you so much for that. And I hope people that are watching, that you're taking notes. This is going to be on both of our Instagram pages, right? We're going to leave it there. And we're going to work on getting it on our YouTube channels too, so that you can watch it from wherever and share it with other people. I'm going to drum on, stress more on what you just said about knowing your child. Because for me, as an intentional parent, I said to everybody, I said to people all the time, be present. Be present and be involved and be consistent. Because, growing up for my generation, our parents were present in quotes. They were at home. But they weren't involved in what we were doing. They didn't know when we were reading all the meals and bones. See, for me, it's very funny, because we will sit at the table, I'll have my biology textbook, and the meals and bones will be opened, and inside the biology textbook, right there in their presence. So our parents were present, but they were not involved. They were not consistent. They didn't know what was going on. My dad only knew if you failed biology at the end of the term, when your report card comes home and it is read on that line. What has happened all school year? Most of us, our dads, don't even go for our parents teachers association meeting.
No.
So for our generation right now, the 21st generation parents, and even if you're before that generation, the day you realize that something needs to be done differently is the day you start it. And that's where being intentional comes in. Know your child well enough to know that when they giggle a certain way, something is going on. When they laugh, when they close the door a certain way, something is going on. When you say something and they look at you, you know that look is different. And I mean, don't be a helicopter parent that you're always on them all the time and then you're suffocating them, but be able to read your child's body language, be able to read the words that they're not saying, be able to even read their words, and find time. And for me, it's part of my book. So I have a book on parenting also. Something I wrote in there is about how to teach the word of God to our children. And it applies to every topic in life. How to teach it to our children. Because sometimes so those of us that are watching and that will watch later, this is now not time for you to now call your child and say, sit down, let us talk. I heard about child sexual abuse. What do you know about that? Already you've put that child. Nobody likes being put on the spot. Nobody likes being, it's too formal, it's so judgmental. They're just going to be like, oh, okay, now they're afraid they can't talk. Let's be there for our children. You pick them up from school. So the Bible passage I was referring to says you teach the word of God to them when you're walking down the road, when you're sitting by the river. I'm just using my own words now. When you're eating lunch, when you're watching a movie. See, my kids love watching animated movies. So we'll watch it and when what was that about? Later we can now make talk. We don't talk about Bruno. What are the other things that we shouldn't talk about? So I've done some series on Instagram about taboo conversations, and talking about sex was one of the ones that I'm still struggling on how to put it forward. So when Anita contacted me for this, I said, you know what, this is a very good place to start. Because sometimes we talk to our children, sex education, this is called penis, this is called vagina, don't let anybody touch it. That is not sex education. You only just label parts and you just told them what not to do. And guess what? What do our children do when we tell them not to do something?
They do it.
Most of the time they do it. So you're actually not educated. So I will still do that, sex education talk for our children. But let's move on. So what should be a parent or a child caregiver's first line of response when we suspect that there's sexual abuse? I mean, you've talked about a little bit about it, right? But is there anything else you would like to add if we're not suspecting, especially if it's a family member? I have an experience that I almost got raped. It was senior year high school. The three guys were my close friends. One of them was my principal's son. So, it was just a funny thing. They just joked about it. And then they looked at each other. They're like, our fathers will kill us if we do this. That was my escape, and we were close friends. I didn't expect them to say something like that. They were definitely teasing me. But the way the devil works is somebody might tease you and then it becomes reality. So tell us, what should a parent do if your child confides in you that something they don't feel comfortable with this uncle, or this uncle touched them inappropriately, or auntie, or you just suspect that something might be going on? What else can we do as parents or child caregivers, or even children's church workers? You suspect something's going on with your child. What should be our first line of response?
Okay. Thank you, Ma. So, quite frankly, again, it will differ. So let me start with if it's within the family. So maybe a close family member or a close friend. First of all, when the child even comes to you, it's a blessing. It means that you have put yourself in a place where the child feels like they can trust you. And quite frankly, as adults, that should be our goal. That when my child is in trouble, or a child, even if it's not my child, I have friends whose children sometimes spend the weekend with me, that even if they feel like I can't talk to my own parents, they should be able to talk to me. If my children, if I tell people that if my children are not in a place with you where they feel like they can't talk to you, forget about it. We can still be friends, but we're not that kind of friends. We should be able to develop those kinds of relationships. So if they can't even, if they come to me, it means that I have, at least to some extent, done my job well, to be open, to be someone they can trust. So thank them for even recognizing you as someone that they could trust. And thank them for being vulnerable and strong enough to even come to you, because it takes a lot of courage. You don't know what that child may have been told that if they tell would happen. Even if they were told nothing would happen, the conversation within themselves, what if nobody believes me? Which is the number one thing why people keep quiet when they go through any form of abuse. What if nobody believes me? What if I get blamed? So you want to quickly arrest that and say, oh my God, thank you so much for telling me this. I'm so sorry that you had to go through that. I can't begin to imagine how it must have been to live through this, but thank you. Today you found the courage and you're coming to me. Thank you for coming to me. And then seek to know more and let them know, affirm them in the words, I believe you. But I need us to make sure that we get this person like this so that they never have a chance to do it again to you or someone else. So are you willing to help me? Let's do this together. And then you seek to know more. If it's a family member who lives within the house, or maybe if it's a place they went to, you start to ask questions. Questions like, what time does this person come? What exactly do they do? And let them know through every step that I know it might be difficult to talk about it. So if you need a moment, let me know. We're not going to rush this. We're not going to. But if it feels like it's a very recurring thing, then you want to really quickly arrest it as quickly as possible, right? And sometimes, depending on the age of the child, ask them how they would rather you go about it. Now, the reason I say that is this. Some people can just get very reactionary, which, by the way, you should never do. No matter, keep your emotions in check. Don't start shouting and yelling. Don't go and confront the person directly first. That should never be the first line of response.
Good.
So ask, if it's an older child, ask them how they would want you to go about it. Ask them what they're comfortable with. If this person were to say, for instance, have to go to jail for what they did, is that something you'll be comfortable with? There's every possibility, and just have that conversation with them so that they are comfortable every step of the way. Now, having done that, you get to seek to know more. Get the facts straight from the child.
Yes.
And as you're doing this might be a day conversation and it might not be. Peradventure, it's not a day conversation, which most times it won't be. You're observing this person. You're going to let the child know, don't worry, every time there's an opportunity for you and this person to meet, I have my eyes on you. I need to watch them. I need to observe them. So you're observing, you're watching them. And I'll give you an instance. There used to be someone at our church that seemed to like to play with very specific girls. Doesn't go to our church anymore, so don't worry. If you're people, don't be scared. you know. And at some point, one day, I just said, I don't know how I feel about this guy. I mean, there are people who play with kids, but something felt off with this guy. And I started, all I just did was I just always observed. Every time he was upstairs with them, I'm somewhere nearby.
Be around.
If he's downstairs, I'm somewhere nearby. And it didn't even help that one of the kids in question that he liked to play was even my own daughter. So it was even a little personal too for me. And then every time if he's downstairs, I'm downstairs. You know, and I just started observing and observing and observing. And then I just noticed one day that apparently it seems like he always likes to take, even when he's within the main auditorium, he always seems to take them into quiet corners where there was vantage point. Now, I never saw him categorically do anything, but the fact that it felt a little, because sometimes people who abuse children do what they call grooming. Exactly. They groom them. They get the children to get comfortable with them.
Yes.
And gain their trust. They are very patient. The devil is very patient and intentional. So why won't we? You know? And so he was doing all that. He will bring them sweets. He will do this. He will do that.
Be very nice.
And then one day I was still thinking about, okay, should I tell someone? And the first person I think to tell is my husband. And I was still thinking about the next thing. He just said, this guy though, like, I don't like the way this guy plays with these kids. I said, thank you, Jesus. And then I said, I've been watching him. He said, oh, I've been watching him too. And I think he knows I'm always watching him. It didn't take long. Maybe like a couple weeks after that guy left our church.
He would leave. Yep.
Because already he knows. Right now, I didn't see anything, quite frankly, in all that time. But I could just, I mean, having lived through it, I could tell that this guy was grooming these kids. It was only a matter of time. And so really, the first line of action in that instance is to just observe. You're observing. Yes. When they even know, if you've worked in retail before, I've worked in retail, they'll tell you that when people come into the store, you greet them not just because of customer service. You're telling them, I see you, so don't get freaky.
Don't shoplift.
So don't do anything. Yes, it's customer service, but they said even just the fact that you greeted them and you keep eyes on them reduces their chances of shoplifting by at least 50%. True. And so the same way you start observing when the person who is trying to abuse knows that someone is now watching them, they'll either pull back, take their time, or change tactics. Exactly. Now and then you can also, depending on again the person, the relationship, you can also just find ways of raising it with the person to say, you know, very indirectly, have you observed anything with this child? Does something, and you're watching them, does something seem off with this child? You know, you can even stylishly say, they said somebody did something, but I don't know who it is. They have not told me who yet. You know, and just observe their reaction and see what happens. You know, I remember one girl that I was growing up with, and she was, their house, they always had men go through it, and each of those men probably went through this poor girl until one of them eventually got her pregnant. Nobody even knew which of them really got her pregnant. Imagine. Yeah. Poor girl had STD, you know, everything. And you know, Nigerians being Nigerians, they are what she got as a reward was being kicked out of the house and labeled. You know, and I remember, you know, one of the ones where the guy was caught trying to sleep with her. That eventually really just blew everything out. And then that was when they not even went and did test and found out that the girl was even pregnant. When he was found out, instead of this woman to, you know, comfort this child, find out how long this has been going on, she was yelled at, she was beaten, and I mean beaten like stripped naked beating, you know, and shamed and, you know, did all those things to her. You know, and I remember some of us that were going through the same thing under the hands of these uncles. I remember about two of us, we went to a corner and we started talking like, oh boy, they must not find out that this uncle touched us too. You know, and we made a pact and said, we'll never tell a soul. Never tell. But we'll just find ways to keep away from those uncles. Yeah. Now, did those women stop bringing men into our house? Yes. But unfortunately, what's being done? It's already done. And her reaction was very, very wrong. You know, so really just Observe,
Observing.
ask questions, seek to
Mm-hmm.
know, comfort the child, affirm them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Tell them I believe you. That's the greatest reason people don't come out. Is nobody will
Mm.
believe me. They will
Mm.
blame me.
Yeah.
Tell them I believe you. Give me the time to observe.
Yeah.
Now, if need be, please, protection of that child over any other person. If need be, and as the situation,
Demands.
unfolds, take
Yep.
necessary
Remove them
actions,
from, yeah.
legal
Remove
and
them from.
otherwise.
Yeah.
If you have to remove that child from the scene,
Mm-hmm.
if you have to remove that child, report them to the police.
Mm.
Whatever needs to be done to protect that child first.
First.
That child needs to know that someone believes me, but not just
Mm-hmm.
believes me, but believes me enough to protect
Yes.
me
To do something about it.
and do something about it.
Yes.
So remove them from the scene. Sometimes
Mm.
I get it. I know that the conflict we have
Mm.
is that maybe the person in question, if it's my husband, what do I do?
Mm.
If it's
Mm.
my wife doing the abusing, what do I do?
What
If
do
it's
I
my
do?
younger brother, one of my aunties one time almost arrested my cousin,
Mm.
you know. But in the life of him,
Mm.
till today, he
You will
will
never.
never.
Exactly.
And funny enough, unfortunately, it was even a lie at the end of the day.
Mm.
But the fact that she was willing
Mm.
to put him behind bars,
Behind bars.
even her own sons were like, "Oh, we have to give ourselves
Yeah.
brain because if
Yeah.
she can do this to this
Yeah.
dude, she
Yeah.
can do it to anyone." And she warned everybody
Mm.
that day in the house. I was the only girl, and she warned all of us and said, "If I ever hear any of you,
Mm.
I will skin you alive. In fact,
Mm-hmm.
before the police comes to get you,
Comes.
I have killed you. It's your corpse they'll come and move
Mm.
out of this place."
Mm. Mm.
And
Mm.
so sometimes when you even set those kind of deterrences,
Yeah.
it helps.
It
And
helps.
so so believe the child, do
Mm.
anything necessary. If
Mm.
you have to report them to the police, please.
Mm.
I know it's hard. I know we don't want to scatter homes and all that, but think about the life of that child that you
Of the
scatter.
child that's being
And
abused.
it's not even just the child. If that child now grows up themselves to now become rapists too, we've
Mm-hmm.
created a whole cycle of,
Cycle.
generational abuses. So
Yes.
it's very important that we take action.
Yes.
But the wrong actions to take is yell, shout,
Mm-hmm.
go
Mm-hmm.
and just confront the person
Mm.
face to face. Some people
Yeah.
even take the child. In
Along.
fact, maybe we'll get a chance to talk about my own with my mom, and ask the question right there in front of the person and say, "They said you did this, so
Mm-hmm.
how far?"
Mm-hmm.
Mm-mm.
Mm-hmm.
No child will open up
Wisdom,
that way.
wisdom is profitable, the Bible says, but in all of getting our
Absolutely.
wisdom, we need to get understanding and knowledge. And as
Mm-hmm.
parents, just like she said, your reaction to what your child just told you, it matters a lot because it can either build your child's trust more in you or it can
Mm-hmm.
damage it completely and they will never come to
Absolutely.
you again. I know the Bible says you should watch and pray, which is the example, the very good example you gave about, that person that you're like, there's something fishy about this person. So we don't just pray about it. We also are watchful. God gave us these children to watch over them, to train them. When you're training somebody, you don't just say, "Oh yeah, I'll do it tomorrow." No, when you're
Yes,
training someone, it's a 24/7 responsibility because you're
absolutely.
going to give account at the end of the day. So when you notice, wherever it is that you notice someone is taking interest in your child, get to know that someone too. What are their interests? Why are they interested in your child? And as we're raising our children also as parents, let them know whatever it is that happens, feel
Mm-hmm.
free to come and tell me. I promise you,
Absolutely.
I always say to African parents, we can promise not to shout, but if you find out at the end of the day that you still yell, then apologize immediately. I'm sorry. I know I promised you not to yell. I'm sorry I
Mm-hmm.
yelled. Let me calm down. If you need to take
Mm-hmm.
a walk and calm yourself down and
Absolutely.
come back. Because when your child is already dealing with emotional turmoil, they're already being abused sexually or any other way, and they come and confide in you. They're looking for you as their safety net. They're looking
Yes.
at you as a solution giver. They're looking at you to help them out, to sort
Mm.
out what this is about. But when your reaction throws them under the bus, then you leave them to go back. Sometimes they have nowhere else to go back but back
Yep.
to the abuser. Because,
Absolutely.
like you've said, the abuser, most of them are well known to our children. They're well known
Mm-hmm.
to us. They've made our children feel safe around them. They've
Yep.
done things, they've done things that our children feel, oh, I can talk to this person. And in the process of talking to the person, they are getting touched.
Mm-hmm.
And because
Mm-hmm.
it's feeling good, in quote, their body is reacting. Because I say to children all the time, your body is a machine. God made it to react certain ways. So if somebody touches you, you might have an erection. It's not
Mm-hmm.
that you didn't want to, but your body will respond that way
Yes.
because that's
Mm-hmm.
the way your body was set up to respond. But does that now make it good? No. Does that mean you should take it further than erection and do something with that? No. That means
No.
you should run for your life from that person.
Mm-hmm.
So as
Mm-hmm.
parents, please, let's be on top of our game. I know sometimes we're busy, especially for us, immigrants, if I can use that word, parents here in diaspora, we're so busy with so many things. And sometimes we neglect our children. We don't plan to, but things happen. We just get so busy.
Yeah.
But always book out a period that you can sit. And I say to people, like for me, I sit with my children one at a time. Each person gets
Mm-hmm.
their own time. Whoever needs to cry, let's cry together. Whoever needs a hug, let's hug together. Whoever wants to go for a walk, let's walk together. Does that mean I have nothing else to do with that time? I do, but that's something else I have to do with that time is now secondary. My children's need for me to be there physically, involved emotionally, talk and listen to them. And that's another skill we need to practice, listening.
Mm-hmm.
So your child is telling you something, listen. They
Mm-hmm.
sometimes tend to interject and interrupt, and after a while, they just give up
Yes.
because you're talking too much already. So they just give up.
Mm-hmm.
So the information you need, they've not given you. So please,
Mm.
I see that our time is going by fast, but I see some of the other questions I have left. You've already, done justice to them in the way we've been going.
Okay.
So that's really, really good. So the other question that I will now say is, in this sexualized world, and I'll also give an answer to that. How can we as parents protect our children from sexual content? Because some of it are actually out of our hands.
Mm-hmm.
I saw something on a long while back, I think before COVID, and we pointed out some of the silent sexual messages in some of the Disney movies that we've watched that we've thought were family movies. And I was shocked. And that's the truth. We go to the mall, you drive by the bus stop. In Saskatoon, there is this sex toy store in Saskatoon. Their advert is on the back of the city buses.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So how do I cover my child's face from seeing that? So I'd like you to talk to that. How do we protect our children from the ones that are out of our control? The ones that are within our control is, the people around them, monitoring their behaviors, seeing where their behavioral changes. But what are the ones that we don't have control over that are out there? What else can we do to protect our children from that?
And the simple answer really is beat them to the game, beat the people that are out there to it, and let them not be the first to tell your children what is. The law of the first in the sense of this is that it's who gets there first. One thing I'm learning, I remember when I had to first of all have conversation with my children around same-sex marriages and all that. I didn't want it to come as a shocker to them that those things happen. And I can't remember what we were talking about one day, and it just occurred to me. We're even driving, and my husband and I just got you and I said, "Yeah, let's just talk about it." And so we started telling them there are people who, who feel that they have to marry someone else that looks like them, and then we walk them through the Bible as well to help them understand where that is, and even help them understand through physics, because my kids. I make a joke that I'm raising little geeks. They like to watch historical content. They like to watch scientific content all the time, and then they tell us about all the different things that are happening, And so, and I even help them understand through some of those things that they've been watching to say, hey, have you ever seen, a male butterfly marry a male butterfly? No. Have you ever seen, and teach them all of those things through nature, through everything, to help them understand why we believe that, it has to be like the opposite sex and all that, and so by the time, I didn't even know at the time that apparently they had someone who is a lesbian at the daycare. And then they came across another child who had two moms. And so when that happened, I was so grateful. So grateful that we had beat their access to that information. And we have had the chance to teach them first. And so age appropriate matters, because if sometimes when you talk to some people about, have these conversations with your kids. I mean, at a certain age, I can't remember what grade these kids said they were in, when they were telling me that, that what they taught them about reproduction It's actually even the entire sexual intercourse process. And I'm
Exactly.
like, what?
Exactly.
You know,
Yeah.
I had to ask myself again, wait, what grade is my child in again? Okay,
Yeah.
time to have that conversation.
Yes.
You know, so you don't wait until they've stumbled on something or they've
Exactly.
seen something.
Exactly.
There are some things that you have to beat them. I'll give you another example: pornography and masturbation. The
Mm-hmm.
first time a lot of kids unfortunately hear about
About it.
pornography is when they stumble on it, and that's not fair.
Yes.
That's not fair.
Yes.
You have to help them at a certain age. You have to help them understand that if even you touch your penis yourself,
Mm-hmm.
you
Yep.
might arouse
You
yourself.
might arouse yourself.
But it doesn't mean that you have to, and then teach them how to help themselves,
Mm-hmm.
get control. The
Mm-hmm.
first time they should see it should
Yes.
not be,
It shouldn't be
and
from
now they're even trying to teach them and even have them watch it as a way of teaching them.
teaching them. Yeah.
So if you don't know that exists, how do you beat them to the system? Because the truth is, like you rightly said, we really do live in a sexualized world.
Yes, we
I
do.
remember there's this thing, I used to do with the teenagers at our church. We stopped it during the pandemic, but I
COVID.
think they
Mm-hmm.
started now again. Get real weekends.
Okay.
When the
Mm-hmm.
numbers were too small, it was nice because they just all come over to my house and then we'll just spend the whole weekend together. And I mean, we had a joke around, or whatever happens in Mazurak stays in Mazurak. That's where I live. But
Okay.
it wasn't like, oh, you can't go and ask your kids what they learned. Of
Mm-hmm.
course, you can
Mm-hmm.
ask them what they learned, they'll
Learned.
tell you.
Yes.
But the point was that it was a safe place to just
To
really
talk. Yes.
talk,
Yes.
and just open up. Let's get
Yes.
into those minds and
Yes.
understand what's going on so that we can arrest it for you before they go and talk to someone else that we don't know what that person will tell them.
You will tell
You
them.
know. And I remember in those conversations one time, some of the boys were talking about dressing and sexual abuse apparently, and rape and all that. And they were saying, well, but really the way some girls dress though, that. And I said, well, but you're in a part of the world now where people don't even see, they don't frown at those things. At least in Nigeria, if a girl wears bum short walking on the
You
streets, we
can
frown
see.
at it. We
Yes.
talk about here it's a,
Yeah.
it's a norm. It's normal.
Yeah.
So are you going to allow yourself to just keep seeing every short, that
Exactly.
every girl is wearing?
Train
Or
your
are you going to
eyes.
tell
Train your
yourself that
mind.
I need to train my eyes and my mind?
Yeah.
And after
That's
we
why
taught them,
parenting also comes in, especially for
exactly.
dads
Mm-hmm.
talking to their sons about stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's gonna get thrown at you everywhere.
A lot.
But you now
Mm-hmm.
need to make a decision to say, be careful, little eyes, what you see. Be careful,
Mm-hmm.
little mind, what you think
What you
about
do.
what you see.
Mm-hmm.
And also learn to remove yourself from environments and situations that will arouse you to do what you know you should not be doing at this
Exactly.
age. Someone's asking, how do you know when your child is ready to be taught? See, sincerely, the way things are going right now, once your child knows how to talk and say no back to you, you should also start letting them know, don't play with your penis. It is your private part. Yes, it's yours, but don't go playing with it. It's supposed to be inside your panty. You don't bring it out and show everybody. You don't just go telling everybody, do you want to see my penis? Because kids can be very funny. So little by
Yeah.
little, when you say that to them, you see how they react to that. You see
Mm-hmm.
how they're able to handle that. Then you build on it. For those that
And
have
the
girls,
questions they ask you,
yes,
and the
yes,
kinds of questions they ask you, and also
you would
even
know.
look at their curriculum.
From the
Look at their
schools,
curriculum
from
ahead to know
yeah,
what school is going to be teaching them. If
exactly.
it's in your child's curriculum already, please beat them
Yeah,
to it.
you have to teach it.
Look at
Yeah,
the curriculum
know the
and
books that
then
they're even borrowing from the library. Because there was
exactly.
one that I shared with the Daughters of the King at our church recently. Someone was on Instagram. I found it, a book at I think the child is in grade 4 or something like that. So this child borrowed this book from the school library and brought it home, and it was talking about sex education, and he had a picture of two people. No, this one had a description of the older sibling had a boyfriend, and when they get naked and lay in bed, and there was a picture of them laying in bed naked,
Wow.
and
Okay, I think I
how
saw
his
that.
penis rubs against her
Hmm.
vagina and how she feels good. So
Yeah.
we need to know what our children are being exposed to everywhere they go. The shows that they're watching. If you watch anything on YouTube, I'll drop this in here. If you watch anything on YouTube at least once a week, you should have your own YouTube channel. All you have to do is sign up for it. Then you can do your setting according to the ages of your children. Certain content on YouTube should not even show up.
Hmm.
You shouldn't pop up when you've done your setting. So do your setting. Subscribe to the channels that are good. Find things to divert. See, over the pandemic, me and our youngest will just watch TV, and we stumbled upon these shows that shows you the 10 beautiful places in the world, the whatever, all those travel shows. And she was really, really enjoying it. So me too, I learned a lot about the cities that will go underwater by 2050, the cities that you should visit on your bucket list. We got to know so many other places around the world. So we should always find a way to divert their attention. We don't bury our head in the sand. We don't ignore that they've seen that someone is having sex. We talk about it, but you also help them to find an alternative. So if there are certain shows that they're watching and you're beginning to see things in it that are not good, talk to them about it. Don't just say, no, you can't watch that show anymore. Okay, for example, in my house, when our kids were younger, I banned them from watching Peppa Pig. Peppa Pig has an attitude. She's too sassy for my liking. And I realized my kids too were becoming, no, I don't want to. And I said, we're not watching Peppa Pig in this house. Like, I think she's rude. That is me, okay? If you are affiliated to Peppa Pig, you can let them know I think Peppa Pig is rude. So I had to tell them, no. I'm beginning to see you do some of the things she's doing, and I don't think I like that. That's not part of my moral value system that I want you guys to grow up on. So we banned Peppa Pig. Even at my daycare, there's a kid that loves Peppa Pig. And I said, sorry, you can watch it at home, but not here. And I actually spoke to the mom about it. So, and you also mentioned something about, creating a village around our children. And that's something I stand for. But that village you're creating about your children, around your children, know them, know their value system, know what they stand for. They might not even be Christians or Muslims or whatever religion you belong to, but you've seen that we're raising our children in the same way. We have the same future in mind. We're protecting them. We're talking about issues that needs to be talked about. Because if we don't talk about it, like you just said, someone else will talk about it. Absolutely. And that someone else will just give them the tools and not give them the wisdom and the knowledge they need to know how to handle those tools. And we don't want our children falling victims of, even the society, the school system. So our job at home, which is what I say to parents at church all the time, your child only spend 1.5 hours with me at church. I will do my best to teach them the way of the Lord. The bulk of it lies with you at home. Whatever the teacher has taught them at school, when they come back home, they should be free to ask you questions that, okay, our kids, older ones went through the Catholic school system. So there will be questions about, the Catholics believe this, but we go to Pentecostal church and we believe this. Why is that? Why don't we pray through Mary? So we talk about that. This is what we believe based on how we are raised and how Christianity works for us. This is what other people believe in, but we all believe in Jesus Christ. So always, give your children room to talk. This is what this is all about. We pray, sincerely, we pray that none of our children will have to go through sexual abuse or any form of abuse. But we have to wake up to our responsibilities. We have to be intentional. We have to ask the right questions. We have to be at the right place at the right time. We have to find ways to connect with them. So maybe your children are teenagers already and they don't want to talk to you anymore. That's fine. Find ways around it. Maybe their room is dirty and you've talked for 1,000,000 years. Shock them one day. Clean out that room and watch them walk into that room when they get back from school and be like, who cleaned my room? Oh, I had a day off and I just thought, since you haven't had time to clean it, you haven't had time to clean it. So I decided to help you. This is where I put this. This is where I put this. This is where I put that. Well, get ready for a week later. It might be dirty again. But what you've done is to let them know, I'm here. Yes. I'm here with you. We're walking through this together. Until you get it, that your room needs to be clean, I will be here and we will walk through this together. And that forms that bond. So that when they're older now and they've left home, they will still be able to pick up the phone and say, Mom, what do you think I should do? Should I buy the red car or the green car? Because you've set at the early stage that they can talk to you about anything. And that's the same way we relate with God. We can talk to God about anything. So we're actually modeling God to our children when we are involved, we're present, we're consistent. We take each child as they are. This child likes to talk. This one doesn't like to talk. There is no, you're not like your sister. That we don't need that. And when a child confides in us, I will stress that again about anything going on in their life. Please calm down. Calm down, especially us mothers. Calm down, sit down and listen. You will learn a lot when you listen. So any other question here that I missed? I think I've answered your question, exquisite ear care. Sometimes toddlers touch themselves as a way of sex exploration. How do you process this with them? I believe Anita has talked about that, like sit them down and let them know, okay, this is your body, this is your body. We can touch each other's faces, but try not to touch this because, as you're getting older, your body will react in the way that you don't want it to react. And you don't need to get into, just use the words that they will understand depending on their age. If they are now teenagers that are doing that, you want to get your sister pregnant because if you have sex with her, that's what might happen, right? You might need to go graphic with them because they've seen the graphic. So let's not pretend that they haven't seen the graphic.
Yeah.
So I see that at times.
And I think too, I also find out why they're touching, because sometimes you might think it's self-exploration. It might be, but if it is, then you even get the opportunity to even teach them more about their bodies and what it's meant for. And if it's not, and maybe it might even just sometimes might even be that someone else is touching them that way and they're trying to replicate. So it might be an inside. It might give you the insights to something that might be going on that you may not be aware of. So yes, so it's something to think about. And even so, let me just even quickly add something to what you were saying earlier about making sure developing relationships with our children to a point where even when they leave home, they are able to call you up and all that. Some of us, when we think about the relationship we have with our parents right now, you don't want to talk to them about anything. You only just call to, hey, how you doing? How's everything? Maybe if you're sending them something, you send them, oh, I've sent you, you're talking. And that's where it ends. So ask yourself, is that the relationship that I want with my children when they grow up and leave the house? Your parents did some things or did not do some things that led that relationship to be that way. Whatever those things were. In fact, for a lot of us, sometimes if we even start digging, we realize that there's still untreated trauma there. So go and treat it. That's one. And two, tell yourself that what were those things they did or did not do that caused this gap between my parents and I, and how can I correct it in my relationship with my children and get to work on it?
Exactly.
Because these things repeat themselves, and if you're not intentional, it will repeat itself.
It will repeat itself.
It's not a curse. It's bound to happen.
Yeah, because we learn more by what we see others do than what they say we should do.
Exactly.
Thank you so much, Anita. It's been a wonderful 1 hour. I know you have to get going. And final words from me is let's just be intentional on how we're raising our children, even if they are your nephews and nieces in your care. Be that watch post, watching out for them, because there are certain things they wouldn't know how to deal with, and you can be that support system for them. In closing from me, and I will let Anita talk about our book also. So my book that I made reference to is Intentional Parenting, A Lifetime Journey. And that's because, like I just said about you are old and you're still calling your parents. Parenting is for lifetime. It's forever and ever until parents die. They will continue being your parents. And my book is available on Amazon for sale on Amazon. And you can also follow me on this platform that you're watching from. And I'm on Facebook with the same name. My YouTube channel is Olawumi Oyetuga, and hopefully this video will make it there soon. I'm not promising you when, but to make it there soon. So Anita, final word from you, and talk about your book if you have a copy with you.
Yes, I do have a copy with me here as well. So my book is Revealed. It's a true story of my experience with child sexual abuse, the journey, and how I came into a place of healing and, still on the journey of wholeness. And you can get the book on Amazon as well. There's the e-copy, there's a hardcover. You can also get it in Nigeria if you want physical copies. If you're watching, I know there are some people that are watching from Nigeria here today. You can get it from Warital Bookstore. You can even order it online on their websites as well. And yes, like Pastor Omi said, this will go on our YouTube channels. Mine is actually, I go by the same name on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. It's Anita Adefuyi, wherever you're looking for me. Yeah, so that's it for me. And one more thing I want to say, I know we're talking about parenting and all that, and we didn't touch on it, but permit me, Matt, to just share this.
Go ahead.
In my own instance, unfortunately, one of my abusers was a parent. So I know we didn't touch on that part yet, but what happens with the other parents, and how they react. Fortunately, unfortunately, both my parents are now passed, so there's no, this is how you could have gone about it better with them, conversation with them. But what that could have looked like for the benefit of parents who might be in a situation where it's the other parent that have abused your child. First of all, I'm sorry that you have to deal with that. Either as the person who was abused, I'm sorry that you have to deal with that, because your parent is your number one protector on this earth. And if they are the ones abusing you, I know what that feels like. But for the other parents, please learn from my story and what not to do and the right way to do things, and help bring healing to your child. The child comes first. Always remember that.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much for bringing that in. So grab a copy of the book on Amazon and read through it. And you will learn a lot from reading through this book. I promise you that. If you have any other questions for Anita, especially if it has to do with parents being the abuser, please send her a chat. Anita Diffuye, you've seen her Instagram handle. She'll get back to you on that. If you have any other question from this session or any other parenting topic, you can also message either of us and let us know what your questions are, and we can share the answers publicly if that's okay by you too. So thank you
Sure,
so
no
much,
problem. Thank
everyone.
you so much,
Thank you so
everyone,
much.
for being
We
here.
have to
Thank you so
go.
much,
Thank you
ma'am.
so
Yes,
much
ma'am.
for spending your Saturday morning with us, or whatever the time is where you are based. God bless you. We'll leave
Yes,
this
ma'am.
on our Instagram pages so you can watch the replay. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, ma'am. Have
Okay.
a great weekend, everyone.
God bless you, everyone. Bye for now. Thanks for
Bye.
joining. Yeah.
Thank you.